Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you here today at the Brett Davis Podcast Show. I'm very honored to have the mayor of Imperial Beach and the star of my movie, The Big Dump, Paloma Aguirre.
Great to be here.
It's great to finally have you here.
Thank you for having me.
So you're doing some amazing. You've made this a life quest, fixing the sewage situation that's going on, and the sad part is that Imperial Beach really has been crying for a long time for help. Are we seeing any headway with this whole thing?
Yes. So we have experienced this for a very long time, as you mentioned, decades. But the ironic thing is that it's the worst it's ever been. And I can go into the details as to why. But you're right. I have made it my lifelong quest. It's been really because it started me as a surfer, just wanting to surf clean water.
I've seen those photos.
Yeah, I still do, just for my own selfish reasons. But then the more I learned about it, the more I realized this was an injustice that could have been fixed a long time ago, that still could be fixed very easily, relatively. So it's one of the primary reasons why I felt motivated to run for office. I saw my predecessor have such a big microphone and platform as mayor. So it really was one of my core and continues to be the most important matter that I work on as mayor. And that is the most important thing to the people of Imperial Beach and beyond.
Well, I'll be honest. Hearing you speak as long as you've been mayor and just as long as I've known about this, I mean, I've known about this situation my whole life as well, but you inspired me to get involved. I mean, there's moments where we all say, something has to be done.
Yeah.
But there was something in your cry and your voice for people to get involved that made me decide to do our film. I didn't know how we were going to do it. We had never done a film, but you were the first person I had in mind to be in the movie because I thought we needed to get that message out. And I know since then you've done other movies and you've done other things. You are the person for this situation. And I guess the question is, are you satisfied with what's happened in the last 6 months where we're at today?
I would say yes. And it's really thanks to efforts like yours and your team helping us spread awareness and amplifying what we've been saying for a long time. Like I said, the situation is really at a crucial point as far as the detrimental impacts, but also the momentum that we've created together in the last year and a half, I would say. We've secured funding to not just expand the international sewage treatment plant, but to fix it. It's something that, had we not been on top of the agencies that are in charge of that plant, we wouldn't have realized that it's in severe state of disrepair. We've been working with members across the border at the state and federal levels. So now we have the well underway construction of the new sewage treatment plant, which will hopefully entirely capture all of the sewage coming from the western side of Tijuana, treated, discharge it into the surf zone, and entirely eliminate a very significant source of pollution to our beaches.
What percentage are we talking about?
So according to the US EPA Tijuana River Comprehensive Solution, which was a very long and very involved multiple stakeholder effort to analyze all the infrastructure needs on both sides of the border within the Tijuana River watershed to better understand what exactly is needed to be fixed and how much it would cost. So it was very similar to a NEPA process. So that comprehensive solution identified that the Punta Bandera treatment plant, if and when fixed, would eliminate 98% of the pollution to our beaches during dry weather months.
Okay.
So whenever the river is not flowing, which it shouldn't flow when it doesn't rain, that is the sole source of pollution to us. So you fix that, we could have our beaches reopen in the summer.
So you said dry. What about wet?
When it's wet weather, it's a very almost impossible thing to stop because the Tijuana River watershed is 1,800 square miles. It's very large. It's one of the largest watersheds in Southern California, and it's a seasonal river. So it only flows when it rains, but when it rains, it has a capacity to flow in the past up to 1 billion gallons of water per day. With all the weather variability that we're seeing, we saw Tropical Storm Hillary last year brought 14 billion gallons in one day of flow in that river.
Is that when some of the clean water was affected?
Yeah, that what followed was the first ever boil water advisory to the city of Imperial and Coronado too.
I think about all the poor people during, was it a 4-day shutdown?
Yeah, it severely impacted our local businesses in the tens of thousands of dollars lost. Yeah.
Were they compensated at all for that
Not
shutdown?
yet. Mm-mm.
They should be.
Absolutely.
Is that a state issue then?
No.
Who did they go to for that? Is that federal?
Well, there was a FEMA declaration of emergency related to that tropical storm for the county of San Diego. So,
But that's just a loan. It's not a grant, and that's not given for situations that are out of their control. I mean, you would think because of that situation, it's not their fault. And I know it has nothing to do with you, so I hope you don't feel like I'm pointing the finger at you, because
no.
I know you care, and I
Yeah.
know you're very involved with your community, but somehow it doesn't seem right that those people should have to take a loan on something that they didn't do. You know what I mean? It wasn't their fault.
Yeah. And I think that's where the lawsuits become prevalent, right? With the BP oil spill, right? What was it, Horizon oil spill?
Right.
There was a known source of pollution.
Right.
So when these loans went out, they became forgivable loans because the company was made responsible and had to pay those damages out, right? So the same could be done here if we had enough political will to hold polluters accountable one way or another. Now, Senator Steve Padilla has introduced a legislation. That's why where we were yesterday at a press conference with him to support his legislative package. 1178 is precisely seeking to do that, to hold California registered businesses that operate in Mexico for whatever reasons and that are discharging and polluting the waterways accountable.
Good.
Yeah. So back to your original question about the economic damages that businesses suffered. I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done to, compensate the losses of those businesses, which we are absolutely supportive of as a city, because we understand what they went through. We were right there, elbow to elbow, shoulder to shoulder with them, trying to better understand when exactly they could reopen, and in the meantime, providing drinking water for our community.
I'm concerned about all the things that you're talking about. I'm also very concerned about our air quality in San Diego, and as well as Imperial Beach, Coronado, San Ysidro, and Tijuana. I'm concerned because there seems like there's still more things coming out, or maybe not enough information about how our air quality is being challenged, as well as when it rains or when there's a foggy day. I mean, there's more things they're talking about now we talked about earlier, but I don't think really people realize the severity of what we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think they do. And for example, today at the Board of Supervisors hearing, there were several different residents of Imperial Beach who spoke out about how severely their quality of life is affected, how concerned they are about their health. I think we hear it all the time. The board in its entirety doesn't get the opportunity to hear those stories and to live through what we're relaying, in our daily lives, what we're experiencing. I mean, I talk about it all the time. Now it's come to a point where every other night your entire house stinks. Like I was just having a conversation this morning with someone talking about I don't open my windows at all anymore. Like I just can't afford to because the stink is too strong overnight. So we use portable ACs that have certain filters, but sometimes that's not enough. People who live closer to the river in San Ysidro, Dairy Mart, Nestor, they have it even worse. And if you've never experienced it, the only way I would describe it is if you walk into a portable porta potty, what are those porta potties? And it's without the chemical treatment that it has. It's that strong. It just makes your eyes water and your head hurt. And I mean, we're talking about me having the privilege of being able to afford a portable AC unit, but not everybody has the privilege to afford that. Or, they might be immunocompromised or elderly, and that's extremely concerning.
I guess there's going to be more and more studies coming out as time goes on because now it's being looked at more than ever. And I have to say a lot of it is because you haven't let up. What's going to happen when you leave?
I'm not leaving until you get rid of me.
When you're termed out. I mean, 'cause
I don't have terms.
Privilege doesn't have terms?
No, I could stay there forever.
Okay.
Sadly or happily, I don't know,
Right.
however you want to see
Well,
it.
happily. Okay. So basically, you could stay engaged with this whole thing until it's taken care of. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah, but it
I mean,
should have, would have, could have. Like, it shouldn't take the one person from one seat, right? Like, I think that if there were enough political will and higher levels of government, we wouldn't have to go and do these studies to show what we're experiencing every day,
Mhm.
right? So that they could take it as seriously as it is impacting us. But alas, that's what it is.
I'm concerned, not so much for you because I know you're doing everything you can, that there are going to be some people that get severely immune compromised more or sicker, or we see cancer rates go up. And then because nobody wanted to listen, some people either die or some type of tragedy happens or not. And maybe there's just a major lawsuit against the federal government and possibly the state.
We've already sued the federal government. The city of Imperial Beach sued the International Boundary and Water Commission. We are looking at all legal options on the table, all levels of government. I mean, you can't, allow the status quo to remain when you have for example, California State Beach closed over 900 consecutive days, and you're hindering coastal access for Californians. That's one thing. You have marine mammals that have been now identified as having died of sepsis off the coast of San Diego because of a bacterium that could directly be linked back to sewage. We were just at the groundbreaking in Punta Banderas treatment plant, and one of the attendees, who's a representative of an agency, was talking about the decline in fisheries. They do fish assessments every year, and they've seen a significant reduction. I mean, I can go on, and where does it, and maybe that's the tipping point, somebody passing. If they haven't already, we don't know.
Sure. We got two doctors who are heavily involved in Imperial
Yeah.
Beach with the Ready Care Clinic that have been very successful.
Yeah, the South Bay Urgent Care Clinic,
Yeah,
Doctors Matt and Kimberly Dixon.
They're amazing individuals.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're part of the task force that I was mentioning earlier. It's because of them raising the flag in the beginning, right? They said, hey, we're seeing an increase in gastrointestinal illnesses, people coming into the clinic. It's not something that we may have been monitoring in the past, but now we're seeing a significant increase. Something's up. And at the same time, we were seeing these historical flows coming through the watershed, impacting our coast, unseasonable rain events. And then we had the coastal overtopping that, the king tides bring, and you have a recipe for disaster. So, yeah.
So what do you go from here? I mean, you just keep chipping away until something finally happens. It seemed like I said, like, since we first met, there has been a lot more done through media. There's been, of course, the films. There's been, people are more aware. The crazy thing is there were so many people that were living by the water they weren't aware of this situation, which I can't understand. They didn't even know about it. How can that be?
Yeah, it's surprising. We're so deep in it, and
no pun intended.
Right? No pun intended. That it's you get surprised, right? How can somebody not know about this? But the next steps are very clear. We need to secure the additional funding needed for the, international treatment plant. We only got half of what we had requested. It was thanks to bipartisan support that we had, both from our local delegation.
Scott Peters.
Yeah, no, and the local leaders.
Yourself.
And the local leaders. I mean, Coronado Council Member John Duncan. Mayor John McCann of Chula Vista. Right. I put the call out and they did not hesitate. They said, yes, we're going to support you. Let's go to DC and advocate for this. And as you know, right now, Congress is, currently led by Republicans. They have the majority. And it was night and day. I remember going back there. I've been going for 10, 12 years. 10 years ago, having folks say, this isn't our issue. We shouldn't be paying for this. This is Mexico's responsibility. And now it's like, yeah, we get it. It didn't matter what side of the aisle they were. They get it. They understand the importance of securing the funding. And I think that shows that it's a nonpartisan issue because we got that first round of funding approved. This last FY24, we need to secure the FY25. But most importantly, we need to declare a state of emergency. And you'll hear me talking about that nonstop.
Me too.
Because the money that was secured is just for the treatment plant. That is not treating any flow of the Tijuana River itself. And that is the primary source of pollution for us. That has not been studied. It hasn't been environmentally reviewed. There's no funding allocated for it. Nothing. That, if we do it the normal way, it's going to take 10, 15 years to complete. That's 10, 15 years to your earlier point about
we don't have
that time. So we sent, all of us 18 mayors in San Diego County sent the letter to Governor Newsom calling for a state of emergency, asking him to champion our request to the CDC for more intervention because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know if are there cancer clusters? Are there things that we're not even looking at that we should be concerned about? We don't know. Unfortunately, we did get a response from the governor saying that he did not believe that this qualified as a California state of emergency and that it's a federal matter that needs federal solutions. It's unfortunate. It's disappointing, but we're not going to stop.
Well, what's interesting is that you and I know this, and other of our constituents know this. Mm-hmm. Even children in elementary schools that are writing letters to Governor Newsom and President Biden know this, and they're very young, but yet they know it, and so the writing's on the wall. They get it, like we do.
Yeah, and actually, I'm very grateful to all the kids that have written letters. When we went to the White House last time, they actually brought it up. They said, hey, by the way, we received the letters from the students at Bayside Elementary. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really cool. But yeah, we're going to continue to, that's why we need our message amplified, right? Because we need the pressure to come from all angles, and just having a responsive no is not enough. It's not acceptable.
No, it's not. Mm-mm. The goal is to get all the students in San Diego and all the schools to continue to put pressure on the current administration for both sides until they're both eventually gone or turned down or whatever. Mm-hmm. Because it does need to be, whoever's there needs to take care of the situation.
Yeah. And I very grateful that the South Bay Union School District, Sweetwater Union School District, Chula Vista School District have all passed resolutions supporting our calls for a state of emergency. Mm-hmm. As you may know, there's a joint resolution in the California legislature right now. It's already passed the Assembly. It's being considered by the Senate, which it's expected to be considered in the next couple of weeks. And once that passes, it'll be the entire California legislature calling for a state of emergency to our governor and to our president. So it'll be every single voice, right, calling for the same thing. So hopefully that helps, pivot things our way.
Well, thank you for taking time, because I know you're busy all over the place. So the current funding that you're talking about is for the Punta Banderas site that you were out last Thursday?
So the Punta Bandera funding, that's Mexican funding federal funding that they've secured through their Congress. The plant itself is fully funded. It was very interesting to see. That originally was supposed to be a private-public partnership.
Oh,
Yeah, it was supposed to be federal, state, and private money that would fund it.
for Mexico?
Correct. And it started running into a lot of red tape and roadblocks. And President AMLO had, already made the announcement that he wanted to see this plan completed by September 30th, which is his last day in office. So he started to see it delayed. He said, you know what, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to entirely fund it out of federal general funds, right? And he turned the keys over to basically the National Guard, the equivalent of the National Guard.
Okay.
And we were just there. It's well on its way to be completed. It's going to complete. It's going to treat wastewater at advanced secondary levels, which basically means it can be used for
Golf courses, parks.
Correct. So that's great. I wish we could do the same on our side in a lot of ways. I wish we could just accelerate it, not have to have the funding be, go through all these processes and just get it done.
So how would you do it if you had the control to do it? I mean, how would you get the funding?
Redirect funding from any of the multiple sources of the $1 trillion budget that we have at the federal government.
So there's definitely some fat we could trim, or there's some things we can say we don't really do. We really need this. Waste. There's a lot of waste.
Well, I don't want to.
Okay. Well, there's maybe the things that maybe could be.
There's sources that could be redirected.
Okay.
Just like anything else. I mean, the county just revised their budget. There's, you can shake the trees, as they say, and if there's a will, there's a way. I always say that, but I really mean it.
Well, you have a very strong personality for getting this done in a good way, because I don't think anybody else could have achieved as much as you have in the time that you've been mayor.
Thank you. It's we have all done it, and I appreciate your guys' support and the community support and staff and everybody who's rowing in the same direction.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the kids. I feel bad for the families that have to put up with all this, and that are, they work hard. They're paying their taxes. They're good people. They can't enjoy the beach. They can't, then they got to breathe the crappy air. And then, we don't know what the repercussions of health are. And so I'm sure in the back of people's minds, with everything else that's on their minds, that's an added stress that they shouldn't need.
Absolutely. And we just had Dr. Marvel Harrison. She's a PhD in psychology, talking about that yesterday at the press conference at the county, talking about how stress adds to other mental illnesses like anxiety and depression. And we have an entire generation of kids that are now off to college that have known nothing else but this pollution. And not to mention, the reason why many of us moved to Imperial Beach was to be able to enjoy the beach, water, air, clean environment. And we're not able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully that'll change soon.
So we'll be adding some photos of the mayor's recent trip, looking at the new work that's being done. When is that supposed to be complete? September
30th.
Okay.
And I'll add that the new president-elect, Claudia Sheinbaum, is of the same, it's President AMLO's protege, I guess you could say. So I think that'll be very helpful to us, because even if the project's delayed, I don't think it will, but even if it were, I think she's willing to carry his legacy forward. And she has a PhD in environmental engineering, and she was part of the Climate Change International report. So she understands the importance of what we're talking about. So I would be hopeful that she would be helpful.
Didn't she also win a Nobel Peace Prize for the environmental?
Right. For the IPCC report, the 4th iteration.
So I think she's probably the best person that could be in that situation right now.
For us, yes. Not to get political on international matters, but this is too important to not oversee that.
Have you had a discussion with her at all yet?
No, not yet.
I would love to see that meeting. That's going to be a great meeting between the two of you, I think.
I look forward to that opportunity. I was invited last time to the President AMLO's
Uh-huh.
inauguration. I couldn't make it, but hopefully I get an invitation to hers. And, I'll be meeting with the mayor-elect of Tijuana soon, even though wastewater is not under their jurisdiction, stormwater and solid waste are. So I'm looking forward to that conversation with him too.
Well, thank you for what you're doing. Like I said before, hopefully you'll visit us, come back again
Yeah,
sometime
anytime,
with
anytime.
some good news of some
Yeah,
things. And um, I think I'm going to end up working on a book next between now and
that
next
sounds
year on this.
amazing.
And I think you're going to be in this one of the subjects in the book and what's going on. We'll take the movie, the video of what we've done, and somehow do more modern, up to date things that are occurring and that are
Yeah.
happening, and then we'll get it on Amazon. We'll see what happens. That's the next project that's going to be coming up. She's like, there you go again.
You'll just
Another
have to pay
project.
me royalties. We'll be good.
Of course, of course. You'll have to be at the book signing.
I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
Everybody, do you take care, and remember, be nice to each other.